I wish good things to you who's watching this. I am Alexey, and this is the 7th and the last day of round 1 of the 2025 Carcassonne Champions League, where in Group C, the Japanese master with the screen name Koki Yamaguchi, who also happens to be the creator of this Carcassonne website, with whom many of y'all be familiar, will be playing against a newer expert from Hong Kong with the screen name easttung. So this should be a relatively equal match, definitely with a slight advantage for the Japanese player, or maybe even more than slight advantage for the Japanese player. So the ratings of these players are sort of kind of similar at the moment. So Koki is now rated just exactly 700, which is the threshold for master, and easttung is rated around 600. They were rated more than that earlier on. But overall, as you can see, easttung is a relatively recent player, has been playing only for just over a year, versus Koki has been around the block a couple more years. And because of this website over here that they created, because it has all these puzzles, look at this. So if we just look at these problems over here, 643. So they must have looked through 640 puzzles, and if you solve a puzzle a day, you have to just improve your game by so much. So I should expect the Japanese player to be the favorite just based on experience, but because the rating is relatively similar, only maybe a 60% chance for Koki to win. This is also quite a difficult group. Yours truly is there, the 2023 world champions there, and there's going to be quite the battle for the top 3 spots, which are necessary for the qualification. So the game is about to start. Let's see, and the players are now, both players are now online. It will be starting shortly. Do let me in the chats if you have any particular sympathies or preferences, or if you agree with me in the prediction that's 60% chance on the side of Koki Yamaguchi here. Because maybe you don't. Hi, Kaika. As usual, the match will be best of 3. I need to remind you that it also matters not only who wins, but also the score matters a little bit in the end for tiebreakers. So every game matters a little bit. And there's going to be a total of 3 of those in all likelihood. I would kind of be surprised if one player manages to take care of the match in just 2 games. The game has been created and it has also started. The player from Hong Kong has the apt red color of the meeples to match their flag, and they have the starting advantage, beginning the game with a 4-point city. Road tile for Koki decides to take a road here, which is pretty interesting. That's not the one that I usually take. I typically take the one on the bottom. Was I wrong? Possibly. So I guess there is some potential of building around a road like here for 6 points, and it sort of takes away the loop. But actually, I still prefer the other move on the bottom, just because this sort of road configuration can be a victim to some easy restrictions, such as a monastery, for example, by red could have gone over here, or something as simple as a regular city cap, finishing the city at the top and then putting a pressure on the square. This sort of stuff is a bit more tricky to implement against straight roads, but the monastery is drawn by red rather than yellow. I mean, by yellow rather than red. What a way to confuse colors. I will warm up over the course of the stream. So the Japanese player has a meeple on the monastery here, which is nicely controlling red city. Red is starting a 3-point road. Yellow is now trying to build up his monastery while also putting some pressure on this square. But this gives back a city cap to easttung, which will be used over here in no time, or after some time. It's always good that the players don't play instantly, but weigh in their options. I would probably say that the opening is the most important phase of the game, just because for an experienced player, some of the middle game moves are almost automatic or a bit easier to find. And the opening is where you set up your overall winning chances. It's a bit hard to explain, but basically just trust me that the opening is important. And 8 points on the scoreboard for the player from Hong Kong. But red with... Why did I say red? I meant yellow. Yellow with another road. Oh boy, this is going to be tough. Hi, Andres. Hi, Wise Maze. Oh, interesting. So you expect Koki to be an even bigger favorite? Well, I mean, it's also like in my interest as a commentator to sell this match as equal as possible. But also, I just realized something, that in order for matches to be interesting to watch, they don't necessarily to be like super equal or super close. Sometimes if just like one player is playing really well, we can sort of admire how they exploit the other player's mistake or something like this. But I doubt that we're going to have that big of a skill difference in this level. I mean, both players are making reasonable moves so far. We can see that easttung now building up a nice sausage here on the left with 2 shields. Also putting a bit of pressure on this square here. And if yellow is not careful enough, they could lose their meeple at some point. So for example, with any city cap, eastung's next move is going over here, which will open another attacking square against this guy. But a fantastic tile for Koki. I think if they use it right, they should be having a huge advantage. There's a 5-point monastery spot waiting to happen. That would be a 3rd monastery already. That would be a way to stack. I think the only reason why they have not placed this tile yet is because it is a bit contrary to their plan. The plan, of course, was to use this road end for this road over here with like 2 curves like this. But they already have a use for a curve over here. And this is just too many points to pass up. Yeah, so we can see that easttung chooses to even create that blocking threat using a Dorito tile, which I'm not sure I necessarily agree. I really dislike opening up an invasion platform against such a juicy city. I would have really waited against, for a city cap or something like this. And then with this move, maybe just going over here would have been just fine. Building up our city and trying to inflict some further damage of some of our opponent's squares. Yeah, sort of as red. The reason why I would have preferred this move over here is the fact that it would have taken away a few options. Because if we add the Dorito over here, then if our opponents get a field Dorito, which is not going to happen because they get the best tile in the deck, for them to finish their own city, get out of harm's way, and then even obstruct the square a little bit. But if that were not to happen, so imagine if after this move by red, yellow gets a Dorito tile, and then they can no longer use the Dorito tile to save their meeple. Because this blocking square will already be exposed from this side. But none of that happens. Koki gets his meeples back. Still a 4-point lead on the scoreboard, but of course a gigantic advantage for yellow because of these monasteries. And you see, as a result, red ends up with this vulnerable city over here. So this platform is just incredibly annoying to deal with. But luckily for him, red draws a city cap to cover up this square before yellow draws a tile to invade. And of course, I know some newer players might be tempted to cover up this square first, just because this city cap fits nicely there, and there would be more city cap options available from here. But that, of course, would have been a big mistake, because in situations like these, when you have like a 16-point city waiting to happen, or 14-point rather, then it is the first priority is to protect the point, not allow invasions. The safety of the meeple or trying to complete it soon, that's already secondary. So we can see that now the safety of the meeple will be a bit compromised as Koki finishes his road and takes 2 points, and also opens up a blocking square against this square, and now it will work like a charm for Koki. He will go over here and limit the number of tiles that fit into the square to just 1. But that's okay, 1 is not 0, If we draw that tile soon enough as the player with the red meeples, we can fight. And also, I need to note that even if this meeple gets blocked, it actually will end up earning red more than these 6 points. It will end up earning red about 11 points, and let me tell you why. So, yellow put this tile here to try and create the blocking platform as soon as possible. Something that's a good idea. But because yellow needed to go over here to create that blocking platform, yellow was not able to go over here and invade this road like this. And as a result, red ended up with a 6-point road of his own. Had the city not been a threat here, then yellow could have simply left this square alone and use this tile to invade the road. Actually, if I'm completely honest, I would have done this anyway. But I also need to point out, I guess, that there's extra value for this crossroads. It's not just for the creating the blocking platform, it is to limit the potential of red's field as well. Because if yellow were to put a curve here instead of a crossroads, then suddenly all of these green squares would be a part of the big field, and an extra city as well. Alright, so now finally this square is blocked, and this will be a very difficult position for Mr. Tung here. Or Mrs. Actually, don't know. Yeah, so not only a block, but also some extra value in the form of 4 points for the player with the yellow meeples. Tricky, but you know what? We can still do something. Developing the field is a great idea. Starting a new city over here, and at least utilizing his temporary meeple advantage. So the long-term meeple advantage, of course, is on the side of yellow, because this little guy is blocked, and yellow has the potential to recover all these meeples. But whilst the meeples have not been recovered, red can try and bully in some more points on his scoreboard using his temporary majority. And also, it's not guaranteed that these monasteries will be continued. They could get blocked at some point. But probably what Koki can do now is just to prevent an easy block from happening. That's one way to do it. I would have probably chosen a slightly different route, but this also makes sense. It also sets up another monastery spot, and easttung doesn't really have strong moves here. Actually, he does. Going over here for a 4-point road, that's a great way to score, and also slightly restrict the options for this city over here. And this is exactly what happens. A double-purpose move ends up not working, as yellow gets a splitter tile and is now thinking whether to complete the city and meeple the new city cap or complete the city and meeple a field. I'm a bit inclined towards a city cap here rather than the field, even though the field is a bit more of the normal move. The reason is twofold. There is no rush in occupying this field. Well, the Japanese player disagrees with me, but this would be the normal move in this situation, because that's sort of an efficient placement of meeples. But in this instance, I think occupying the city cap is a little bit better, because red is no rush to occupy the field himself, because red has only one meeple. If red does occupy the field, there's a super easy invasion spot on the left. And if we take this city cap, then red cannot attack it productively, because as soon red puts something like a straight line over here, it opens up an attacking square against his own road. The Taiwanese player with not really much to offer with his monastery tile. Koki with more city caps, and this game looks like it's about to turn one-sided really quickly. A lot in Carcassonne is decided by who draws more city caps, really. Or monasteries, but not both. City caps and monasteries, that is just quite the combination. But still, absolutely paths back into the game exist for easttung. How about we go over here just try to build up a nice 20-point city at the top. There's still plenty of city materials remaining in the deck for us to accomplish this. Koki will now end up taking over this empty city cap at the bottom. And yeah, it was possible to use a tile over here to try and actually clean off that city cap, but I like easttung's move simply because we have to gamble a little bit. This tile is just too good over here at the top, even though going over here at the bottom to clean off the city cap would have been another possible choice. Koki with 8 points extra on the scoreboard chooses to continue his monastery like this. Isn't that interesting? I would have just taken a new city. I think it's a bit extra. So what could be a possible motivation for this? I think I know. So the idea here is, of course, to try and finish at least one of the meeples, and if the other one gets blocked, it's not such a big problem, because red has a meeple majority anyway. But I would have preferred, if you're gonna make a move like this, you're better off going over here with a city cap, so that when you draw a starting tile, if you draw a starting tile, then you already get yourself a nice city. Yeah, so this extravagant decision ends up leading to a blocked meeple for yellow. Still a small price to pay if you are 12 points ahead on the scoreboard and 3-0 on monasteries. Yeah, and also this actually forced red to use a fantastic tile for blocking. So much so that I wonder if it was better to just roll the dice and add it to our city. Probably not. Probably it's still correct. With 3 starting tiles still remaining, you can't really afford your opponent finishing another monastery. So that's a nice blocking sequence here by red. But yellow got a huge win for it, because a excellent tile was used for it. It will now be much more difficult for red to continue his city. In the meantime, Koki with another curve. Variety of options here. He could go over here and block a city cap, which is in red's field. He could go over here and block the expansion of the 1 point blocked city of red. He could even do that with a farmer just to rub it in. He could also go over here, expanding the field from 9 to 12 points by bringing this little guy in, and also putting some pressure on red's road. Another option would be simply going over here and completing his monastery whilst also prolonging his road, but since there are still plenty of tiles remaining to do that, then this could be delayed until later. My favorite moves probably have to do with this part of the board, simply because a field expansion is something that can be accomplished later, but instead, yellow chooses a different route, and I can't say I'm a fan of it. Well, actually, I can say that I'm not a fan of it. Well, I guess the idea is nice. It is trying to invade the main field through one of the 3 remaining city caps. That actually looks pretty strong. But the long-term disadvantage of this approach is the fact that yellow is kind of fighting a bit on too many fronts. So assuming that red finishes that city at some point and is ahead a little bit, he'll be 3-1 on meeple, then he'll gonna finish this. Okay, yellow's gonna complete this monastery, so red will just have a couple more meeples, and then because yellow's now trying to control both fields, red might invade over here and actually take over this 12-pointer. Koki with a starting tile. Not many options with it. Could probably just go ahead and complete the connection, although that looks like a little bit weak. Maybe going at the top and just dropping the city cap, putting some pressure against this square seems like a good idea. And also, we saw that the Dorito was used by easttung just to score 1 point. And a great tile now for the Hong Kong player, trying to escape from possible attacks above, and also having chances to complete the city. We just wanted to show you that the loss of this tile was very, very damaging for red. Had he been able to place this tile over here earlier, then this Dorito would have already been used over here, which would have already set up a full completion of the city. Now, Koki can attack that square before that setup is being made, and I think as easttung, you might even have to do something like this here, possibly even with a meeple, to try and complete that city. Or maybe not, maybe you could just leave it alone and allow your opponent to restrict the square toward the starting tile, and then you can try draw a sequence of a starting tile and something else. So 3 points for easttung. Koki gets a road tile himself. Will he go here and connect to the field with 2 extra points, or will he go here and block that square? He does neither and simply decides to finish his monastery, whilst also preparing to complete his road in case red's city gets completed. But red gets, I was going to say the worst tile in the deck, but actually it's not that bad, because there's still 1 legal square to add it. He adds 2 points to his city ruin. That's his sort of kind of okay. Now yellow with a variety of strong moves. Could go over here to score 3 points. Could go over here to get himself a road meeple back and make it harder for easttung to complete his city. He could simply go over here and sacrifice the points and make sure that the city basically never gets completed, while still leaving 1 more tile that fits into the square, potentially if he ever needs to recover the meeple from his road. But a move which is the flashiest, not necessarily the best, but the flashiest, that is to go over here and drop a farmer by adding this city tile like this, and then hoping to draw a straight line that would not only score 3 points for a tiny road, but also bring in 2 yellow farmers into the field at the same time. Simply goes for the 3 points. A move, a low variance move, which makes sense to make in a position like this, and with 2 meeples from red and a 3rd one waiting to be recovered, and maybe a 4th one possibly. Now it's probably time to go for the bottom field. There is really nothing better with this straight line. Hi Sunny. Supporting Hong Kong. It looks like easttung does need your support. When 17 points behind on the scoreboard. Indeed goes for this field attack. Koki with a dagger tile. And surprisingly not many options. Oh, actually, why don't we just go over here and reinvade the field? Like this. That looks pretty strong. Very easy invasion. It's also setting up 1 more city cap, which is in a field that we're likely to control. Yeah, he does that exactly. Easttung with a city cap of his own. Probably going to go over here and take the points. This will unify the 2 farmers, but it is inevitable in any case. Of course, we don't want to be taking the points over here on our opponent's field. This is what Koki's going to do now. Well, I guess the slight downside of this move is letting in red into the main... Oh, like this. Is that a complete block, though? Yes, it is. Because this was the last dagger tile. Oh, that's really smart. Alright, so you see, so Koki doesn't even go for the bazillion points over here. Simply because he realizes that the only way to lose the game is for something very unusual to happen, such as red finishing his city, getting a meeple back, then maybe using that meeple to overtake a 12-point field at the top. But now that this takes care of that meeple completely, because there are no tile left that fit into the square, then this option, or any comeback option into the game for that matter, is not available for red. Or is there anything that red can do, though? Possibly. I think our plan is like this. So we need to go over here, finish the roads, drop a city cap in the air. It's good for us to have some volatility. And we need to specifically point the city cap that way for a variety of reasons. Because then what we're going to do, we're going to recognize that there's still 4 curves, or rather 3 curves available. Doesn't matter, that's enough. Then we're going to go... no, it doesn't work. Or maybe it does. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Okay, we're going to have a crossroads ourselves. We're going to get a crossroads here. We're going to drop a farmer. And we're going to go here and we're going to drop another farmer. And then we're going to get a curve, and then we're going to go over here and connect to the farm and overrun it. Basically, what red should do, red should shape the board in a way that helps them to overrun the farm at the bottom. Not just equalize, but also overrun it. And then maybe we can talk about winning this game, but instead, red makes a rather passive move. And the problem with this move, even though it's, first of all, is that it scores less. It scores 2 points instead of 3, which this move would have made. And it's... I guess red didn't want to leave an empty city cap, but why? Like, red is playing as if the score is equal. Red is playing as if he's ahead. So this is very often, this is one of the main differences between expert, well, actually there are 2 main differences between expert players and master players. So the difference number 1 is tile efficiency. You're very often going to see experts kind of making a bit inefficient tools, or use very nice tiles to make, you know, like very normal moves, as we saw yesterday how Lucio from Brazil made a move with a dagger tile that was used to field invasion, and then ended up losing the game by a couple of points. So this is one difference. But another difference, I forgot what I was going to say. Oh, yeah. But another difference is the willingness and recognition of the appropriate amount of risk. So in a difficult position, you're supposed to risk a lot. In a not so difficult position, you're supposed to risk a little bit. In a position where you have the lead, you're supposed to take as little risk as possible. And it just seems to be a misevaluation here by red, sort of going for this low-risk move in a position where they need to already be risking really hard. Yes, so this ends up actually costing them quite severely. So first of all, this ends up costing them, I'm going to tell you how much, 6 points, at the very least. First of all, you saw how they drew this city cap over here. If they were to finish their road and leave a city cap open, they would have scored 4 extra points. And then they would have had a meeple to score points with this tile as well, which would have given them even more points. Actually, no, they could have even used this tile in a better way, going over here and dropping a farmer potentially through this curve over here. So many options available for red, but sadly, they sort of playing this endgame, or pre-endgame rather, as if it is the opening, something like this, as if the score is 0-0, but it's very much not 0-0. Yellow is running away with this. Okay, last chance to make something happen. I'm thinking, can we sneak in a quick city somewhere? Can we sneak in some quick 8 points? Maybe just go over here and meeple that city, if there's enough city caps. Maybe just leave it empty. Like, we need to gamble hard. Okay, he does do that. Certainly a lot of respect for that move. Yellow will immediately deal with that move by going over here, making sure that the cities never get completed, and then he wins this game with a 30-point difference. But this does not mean that this move was a mistake. Oh, look at the technique here. Just in case this city were to be finished, because I guess it was still technically possible. Yellow dropped his last meeple to equalize it. Even though it's unlikely that the city would be finished, Yellow does not want a 95% winning chance. Yellow wants a 100% winning chance. And that's sort of the difference between an expert and a master right there. So many players would have made this move without a meeple because, again, that's the normal thing to do in most positions. But in positions where massively in the lead, and when you're guaranteed to win if neither opponent gets a meeple back, then of course you need to make a move like this. Yeah, and this now pays off completely as this square is completely blocked, I believe. So Koki is even going to have himself a winning mini battle. And will end up outmaneuvering the player from Hong Kong. Hi, Ian. The points will be counted. Now, of course, the Japanese player with the better tile draws overall, so the sequence of the 3 monasteries was very nice. Even though most of them were not completed, they still scored 24 points, which is a lot of points, or 25 in his case, actually, because one of these monasteries did get completed. And note how Red also, well, okay, Red drew 2 monasteries, but Red was already in a difficult position at the time, and there were no good spots to take the advantage. So part of Carcassonne is drawing some good tiles, but after that, what do you do after you draw the good tiles? How do you make sure that your win percentage after a bunch of completed monasteries is not 70% but 95%? That's what makes a great player. 16 points is the difference, which actually is not that much given how the game was going. That just goes to show you that I guess there were still some chances for the player from Hong Kong. If maybe they were to finish the city, which was still possible, then they could have attacked the field. Yeah, actually, then it would be possible. Also, we find out that the first game was played with the wrong settings. I actually didn't notice that. I don't think that this will impact the result, because both players played a full game and didn't notice anything. And neither did we, because nobody said anything in the chat. Okay, I think I can actually... Maybe it's not a bad interfere. Rematch. And then change the settings. Then you make sure that the order of the starting players is not disrupted. Yeah, so normally like I wouldn't interfere when I'm streaming, or just generally when somebody else is playing, but it's clear that they've recognized the problem themselves, so we're not influencing anything. There's just an easier technical solution here. But yeah, by the way, if you're interested on Board Game Arena, if you ever run into issues like this, you can first click rematch to make sure that the order of the starting player is the same, and then you can change the settings to slow. All right, let's see. But anyway, the only thing that matters is that the slow player. Wait, is that the Japanese player starts first? Is that the case? Yes, that is the case. The slow time settings are in place, and we are heading to our game 2, where Koki is gonna have the advantage, and he immediately uses it to place a yellow meeple on the 2-point road. And, well, a slight inaccuracy from easttung, maybe just hasn't been around long enough to know all his openings. So the move is good, but you absolutely have to place a meeple on this road, simply because it can allow very easy road points for Koki. Like, there's just no reason to give this road for yellow. And yellow can still easily draw a curve and actually make this happen. But now that this road is being invaded, there are of course bigger fish to fry. Probably as yellow you want to go over here, start your 4-point road, obstruct the square a little bit, and also be happy that you drew 2 monasteries. It's going to be quite the advantage for the Japanese player again. So we're going to see how these monasteries impact the rest of the game. Well, first of all, if red manages to run away with a 10-point city quickly enough, then the game was going to be fairly balanced, because the monasteries will be 18 points at some point, but it's quite a bit of time before that happens. So now red needs to be as disruptive as possible. The first move, of course, is to go over here, start a 2-point road, and also start obstructing the square a little bit. The next order of business is try to draw a double or triple city and go over here and combat these monasteries with the good old Ukrainian technique. We're gonna find out soon whether Ukrainian teachings have reached as far as Hong Kong, but they're very few ways to fight against monasteries like this. So where's our city tile? Both players keep drawing little tiles. Where are our big ones? Koki now finishing his city. This is not the time to be obeying the principle of 2 cities, because our squares are too vulnerable. Straight line for easttung. Needs to be patient. There are actually a couple of options. So he could just go over here, try and finish a 6-point loop. He could try not be fancy and simply continue here directly. This would also create another monastery spot, which mildly benefits him, but Koki draws a 3rd monastery. Oh, are you kidding me? But actually, this is not... Like, the thing with 3 monasteries is you still have to use them, of course, but 2 monasteries are easier to build than 3 monasteries, because no matter how you place them now, you're going to be restricting yourself a little bit. So if you place it over here, which again makes a lot of sense, you're sort of preparing for a 4th monastery, which would be just a killer sequence. That would be 36 points with 16 tiles. That's just incredible. But if you do something like this, there are some chances for red to go over here with a curve, then maybe block the square and you lose 3 meeples. Now, if you go over here, then the configuration is less efficient, because then you get, what do you get? This sort of line, and it gives you 24 points with 15 tiles, which I guess is not that bad. Yeah, and if you go over here, then of course this allows like all these good Ukrainian moves. Like, imagine if yellow has a meeple over here, then red instantly does something like this. And then that's lovely, lovely compensation for red. But now, red can't really play this move productively. I mean, I guess you still have to go here. You still have to do something like this. There's just no other good way. And then you try to take care of that square a little bit later. Okay, he does... It's not gonna cut it. It is, I guess, sort of kind of similar. No, it's not similar. It's a move with one purpose. The purpose of this move is to get some sort of tile that goes over here, such like a starting tile, and sort of to start building a new city and then creating a blocking platform against this square. But it's not good enough. This is the move. And like, it's not a question of style. That's just math. It's very easy not to know this, and I think like many players, when they first encounter this idea, they really don't like it at first. Like, there's really a lot of aversion, and they are, but the truth is, like, there are almost no negative consequences there. It's a bit too long to explain. I think I've talked this through in a couple of streams. I've also made some posts on my community tab about this. But the only reason why I like this move so much, the idea of thwarting the development of two of your opponent's monastery with your one city meeple, is just because it works. Yeah, so my stylistic preference is just to make moves that work. Okay, you have to be kidding me. This move, it's yeah, maybe these are like some stream jitters or something like this. I think these are some psychological issues because it is really, really problematic to say the least. It helps yellow so much. So okay, so what it does, it starts a city in a vulnerable place. Okay, we can deal with this. But then it also gifts a 3-point road to red, and it nicely covers up the square. Maybe, to yellow rather. So red maybe is thinking he's restricting something, but there's still 3 tiles that fit into this square. It's like a bazillion% chance to draw this tile. And okay, if you're gonna start the plan of blocking, fair plan, why don't we just continue it with blocking? Like, this would have been a really strong move. Now, of course, we know that red would have drawn yellow would have drawn a curve anyway. But still, it would have been nice to make them sweat. They would have had an 8-point city now, and of course, yes, it was fortunate for yellow to draw all the monasteries. But did red do everything they can against the monasteries? No, probably not. But it is red who's now ahead on the scoreboard, and there is some potential in this position for red as well. Because this square now is vulnerable. And what we can do as yellow is nothing with this tile. We can just wait. I guess we just gotta go over here. Because as yellow, we should be anticipating the square getting blocked. Red now gets a pretty nice tile to bail him out of this situation. The square at the top is still sensitive. But as yellow, I'm not a fan of this move at all. I would have liked just something like this, simply trying to build up a ruin, because as yellow, we have to anticipate this square getting blocked. There's just so many road tiles, and any road tile that goes here is super damaging, because there's only one starting tile remaining in the deck. And Koki draws a 4th monastery. But you see, because the square is filled, he now cannot have this killer sequence of 4 monasteries in the square. I guess he just has to go somewhere here and probably leave it open. Easttung, now with an option to block that square, or almost block it, which he absolutely should do. So now we're talking. Now I think red is cooking here. Because 12 points on the scoreboard, plus a bunch of blocked meeples, it's kind of almost equalizes it. Well, I guess the issue is that Koki's just going to now go here and pre-complete his monastery. That's a bit troublesome. But then there's this road that goes nicely into this square and can be used by red rather than yellow. Actually, no, it can be used by yellow too. Yellow decides to go there first. Not quite sure why, but it makes sense. I guess yellow's planning to complete this monastery first, and then that monastery later. And this fact is being taken advantage of by red, who scores 2 points and then slightly obstruct this square, making it a tad harder for yellow to complete his monastery in the future. Koki, with a difficult tile to make a decision with. Do we go over here and add a point to our monastery, but then we make this square much more vulnerable? Or do we just go over here, trying to block this square a little bit, because this square can be used as a platform for setting up a blocking platform against this square? This is probably my preference. This seems a bit too extravagant. Going at the top is also another option, just trying to sort of risk really hard with that city, saying like either you block me right now, in which case I can use that open platform to build myself a big ruin, or you don't block me and then I get something like a curve and defend that square. But red found another nice move, actually a really nice move. Yellow found another nice move, rather, restricting this square, which in theory could be part of red's road. And there's only one tile that fits into this square. Red now sadly making what I would call a gigantic mistake. Or actually, I'm not sure about this, but no, it's definitely a mistake for sure. Like, the way you build around your opponent's monastery is you don't give them monastery points. You go here first, and you go here last. Because this will result in yellow completing both of his monasteries as opposed to just one. And then probably red's gonna go over here to clean off the city cap. Or not. Yeah, but you see, as a result, he can't even go there and clean off the city cap. Koki, with a dagger tile, faces an interesting choice. Could go over here for 4 points, getting a city cap, a monastery meeple back, and an attacking platform against Red City. He could go over here and defend indirectly, but that would be a horrible move. Oh, you have to be kidding me! This is... What are you doing, Koki? This is by far the worst move we've seen today. And again, I know that I generally don't tend to be this harsh, but I called this move a horrible move before it was played, assuming that it won't be played. Oh, what are you doing? So, here's the reason why this move is so bad. It uses a valuable tile, which could give you this meeple back, or this meeple back with 5 points and extra benefit. Instead, you take 1 point for your city, which, by the way, could have been developed with the ruin, with all the big tiles still in play, such as the quadruple city tile and all the triple city tiles. So actually, this is an excellent city to be building a ruin with. And so then you rob yourself of this option for a maybe like 20% chance of finishing your city. The reason why it's 20 and not 50 is because, well, first of all, you're relying on a coin flip tile, the remaining starting tile, and second, there's still plenty of blocking tiles that go there. And also, as yellow, you should realize you are in the lead. You have 2 monasteries waiting to happen. So why would you do this to yourself? And also we see that now red is trying to attack the square, and this forces yellow into a move like this, which does complete them the monastery, but it does not allow them to take advantage of the city cap. Yellow does complete the monastery. The game is now equal. Then I presume that red's going to take a couple of points over here, also adding green squares to his field. I mean, I can understand the reasons why red did this, just to follow some comments in the chat, why yellow made this move, but it's just a severe strategic of misevaluation. When you make a move like this, and sometimes moves like this are necessary, this is basically saying, I can't win unless I complete this city. But this is just so not true. Okay, now... Oh... Now red is trying to lose, sadly. Yeah, this is an extremely poor move by reds. First of all, it's trying to fight for a road, and it can easily be blocked. Well, actually, wait, I take that back. It's a mistake, but it's not that bad actually. So There's a positive scenario where red gets a curve and then red gets a tile that goes over here, in which case I guess it's nice. But then this square is kind of likely to be blocked because there's 4 crossroads remaining. And then there's even some scenarios how yellow can draw a tile over here, score the 3 points, get himself a monastery meeple back, then block this square and block red with just 3 points. I guess it has the added benefits of sort of kind of protecting this square a little bit, but still, just make the normal move, just take the 2 points and develop your field, because actually your field really needs development. Like, that extra green square will make a ton of difference, because it suddenly allows you to use a vanilla city cap to get your 3rd city, or to use a splitter tile of any kind. Now, the only tile that red can use to expand his field is a dagger. Not good enough. And also a very particular dagger. Koki. Now bringing some more volatility into this game by drawing the last dagger and scoring 3 points, and also leaving a 7-point city open, a 6-point city open. That benefits yellow a little bit more. Yellow manages to connect to the road and expand his field, so at least that works out for yellow, for red, but it's still not quite worth it. Yeah, I guess there's this, well, the road is 8 points, but the monastery would also be 8 points. And the thing is, if we get a crossroad tile, then we probably go over here, and then we get a monastery meeple back to our opponent, and we get a road meeple back to ourselves. And sort of this whole situation is a bit of a wash, and we just end up with extra 3 road points. But then, if we don't do any of that, and we just go here, and take the 2 points, then if we draw the last crossroads, which is what we're hoping for when we're making a move like this, then we could just take 2 more points. And then we have the meeple majority, because our opponent's meeple is trapped due to this square. So even with this plan working to the best in the, like, even with the best case scenario, it does appear that's something that's just not quite worth to be doing for red. Still not a big deal, still in the game. And now probably I prefer red's position rather than yellow's, since red now managed to cover up his city on the right with the splitter and also invade yellow's city on the left. Yellow, with a desperately needed scoring tile, can use it in a couple of places. Probably going over here, taking 2 points, restricting some of your opponent's squares makes sense. Or maybe going over here is not the worst idea. Trying to set up an attacking platform against red city over here, and then also hoping for the last Dorito tile to complete his monastery. But it does not work, because easttung here gets a Dorito tile, and I guess he could even go over here and block the square. This, of course, would be a bad move, because it's not that important to block the square. He could do this later. Of course, he needs to connect to the city. Well, Koki somehow managed to protect the city. But he's 6 points ahead, and his position is decent. The reason why I still dislike that move earlier is all this hard work was made for just a 50% chance to recover 1 meeple. It's not worth it. But red doesn't get a decent tile, decides to simply discard it, and yellow's now starting a new field, also threatening something nasty against red city. If yellow draws a starting tile now, it's actually even a question. Does yellow go over here and finish his city, or does yellow go over here, score 4 points for the city, 3 points for the farmer, and then with this road piece block this square permanently? Because I need to remind y'all that no daggers are remaining. All 3 are on the board. Red decides to draw a counter farmer, which makes a lot of sense. Yellow gets a tile to restrict the square but not block it, but still an excellent scoring opportunity. Easttung with a Dorito tile, and not an obvious move. So I guess you could go over here and give yourself more options to finish the city, but then it will open up it to more invasions and blocks. So it's not obvious whether you do go over here and force your opponent to maybe spend a meeple on equalizing the city, or maybe you just go over here, add yourself 1 point, and then you hope to draw one of the two vanilla tiles or the one splitter tile before you get blocked. The more I think about this, the more I like the direct approach here, but the approach of red also makes sense. Koki with an obvious move now starts a new city, and easttung now finally can defend. But also, if red were to play that move previously, then he would have already finished the city. But still, that's completely okay. Absolutely fair decision to keep that square nicely covered up. Now he will be rewarded with the ability to defend that square, and after this move there will still be 3 tiles, 2 Doritos, and 1 splitter that fit there. Yeah, not obvious whether to meeple the city cap. He doesn't like to be spending a meeple. Well, this wouldn't have been so much of a difficult decision if his meeples were not busy elsewhere, but that's a different story. Koki decides to block the square for easttung, although it is not obvious how much of a block that is. Easttung gets 4 points on the scoreboard, obstruct the square a little bit, and now the city cap tile, the starting tile that fits into the square, has double importance for both players. If yellow gets it, yellow gets his meeple back and 2 road points and 5 city points. If red gets it, red gets to finish a 7-point city over here and deny 2 meeples to yellow. But yellow's doing just fine as he finishes yet another city and decides not to drop farmers. That's interesting. So I'm wondering, as easttung here, do you just go here and try to drop a farmer like this? I don't think so. I think you first want to go here and try to bring more field points for that guy. Exactly, so look at this nice field expansion at the bottom. Really nice here. So this farmer is scoring 9 points at the very least, probably 12 when the city is being completed, but the first splitter, or the last splitter rather, is drawn by Koki. 14 points on the scoreboard for the Japanese. Has an extra meeple. Probably looking to drop some juicy farmer somewhere. Maybe here, maybe here. Or maybe it makes sense to ignore the farms and just start a new city like this, hoping for the last right-handed dagger or one of the 2 barbed wire tiles. Actually, this seems like the move in this position. It's really difficult to block, although maybe not, because the barbed wire tile can be used over here to take these 6 points. So there's really not much value in starting a new city which requires the same tile for completion as this one. But yeah, it's an interesting move. He could also just go here and expand his farm on the bottom, but then it would open up an invasion. It's a tricky geometry over here. It's one of those positions where there are so many fields that you just wish you had 5 meeples so that you could drop a farmer everywhere, but you don't. Hi, V-Mappa. Also, yeah, I just noticed that 2 road monasteries are still in the deck, so they could spice things up when it comes to farms. "54 seconds on yellow's clock here. And I still don't know what the best move is. I also wonder if it's crazy to just go here and finish Red City, simply to make sure that Red City is a little bit smaller, so that they don't get points for this tile. Of course, it is crazy. It would be a bad move. because that would give a meeple back to reds for an easy field invasion. Alrighty, so a farmer goes on the right side of the board. Easttung's the first to take a crack at this 6-point city, but it gives back a 4-point row, taking advantage by Koki. 12 points ahead on the scoreboard for yellow, a scoring tile for red. Has a variety of options. Could go here, or here, or here, or here to score 2 road points. But there's also an interesting idea of just going over here and dropping a farmer and trying to draw a starting tile and overrun this field. That would be a bit extra. So probably we're looking to score here. Then we're looking to take advantage of this platform, like take a straight line, drop a farmer. Then we get a Dorito, and then we finish our city whilst also connecting to yellow's field. This would be the plan here for yellow, and I think that should do it. Also need to remind y'all that there's still one tile that fits over here that would give yellow 3 points and a meeple back. So, or that would give red 3 points and a meeple back. Red chooses to take 2 points on the left. Not sure how I feel about that, because it creates... Well, it does create a nasty 7-point monastery spot. So apparently red thinks that it will benefit him rather than yellow. Yellow can score probably here or here for 7 points. Not obvious where the best move is. I probably want to go here to keep the options open. But on the other hand, if I do this, it allows my opponent some nasty setups like this through the starting tile. So I might actually just cut everything off and take the 9 points here. And this is exactly what Koki does. And easttung with the much deserved starting tile, just to punish yellow for this move over here. So these two meeples are now very much deservedly blocked. Let's just erase them from the map. They will be scoring only 7 points, but they should be scoring 0 points. But there's no justice in Carcassonne. So easttung decides to even add a point to his city and give himself a chance of finishing a 10-point city. I rather like it, but it comes at a price of conceding another city in yellow's field. Yellow probably gonna go for it. Yellow could also actually go over here and invade that city of red with his last meeple, but if that happens, that would be an absolute win for red. Because upon completion, this completed city will give points to red's farmer. So as yellow, man, it's a tricky situation. Do you just take the 7 points? But then if you take the 7 points, your opponent will invade your 12-point field anyway. Or do you just go here and try to block the square? Because we're kind of running short on city plus field tiles. And by running short, I mean we don't have them anymore. I think he had an opportunity for a complete block. Not that it matters necessarily. So easttung. Oh yeah, because there, actually I think there's just one city cap. This is the only city cap that fits, right? And I guess his plan is to take the points first and then block a little bit later. But easttung with a fantastic tile, which can be used in a variety of ways. Maybe it's time to just drop a farmer here and hope for one of the 2 Doritos. Still 2 Doritos remaining to finish that city. That's an important thing to be doing. You could just go over here and take 3 immediate points. It would be 3 points because it would be expanding his field and adding this guy into his field. This would also be somewhat protecting this city against invasions or blocks. Yes, I think I'm not mistaken. There's only one city cap that fits. Well, just one city cap in total, and this is this guy over here. That'll be an important tile. And also that will be an important tile. I guess we just score as red, but as red you really want to... You need so many tiles in so many places. Or maybe it's time to go over here and invade the farm. I don't know. Maybe with Because the thing with the invasion over here, once you complete the city, yellow will have a 12-point farm, and you absolutely have to invade it. And you really want to be dropping a farmer here before you complete that city, just because it's an inefficient way of invading through that square, not having to spend any extra tiles or any extra moves. As a neutral fan here, I have to say I'm rooting a bit for the player from Hong Kong, simply so that way we get ourselves a decider. And he goes for the farm. Definitely it's a move that requires inspiration, but maybe now is the time to act like this. Now, yellow, with a chance to block the city completely. That's probably the play. If you place it over here, the final city cap does not fit anymore. And there are no vanilla city tiles, no splitters of any kind. And he does this. Great find. Straight line for easttung. So he will not be completing his city, but he still can complete this city. He will not be losing value. So what can he do here? Really not much. Yeah, he almost wishes that he would have first scored the points by protecting his city and then dropped to farmer here. But had he done this... But you see, here's the thing. If you were not to invade now, then with this curve, Koki would have gone over here and eliminated that platform. And then invasions from here would be possible through the field, but they will be not as efficient because as red, you really want to be invading through that Dorito tile. Red just discards the straight line. Yellow, with a bunch of decent options, or actually no decent options. I think as yellow, a move that I really like here is just going over here, covering up an invasion platform for a 12-point field in the future. The reason why I want to do that is because red at some point is going to get a meeple back, and then if we just cover up this square, then it will be much more difficult for red to use his newly recovered meeple to invade our field. Note that invasions from the left are not possible because they would be losing the field for red due to a 2-1 meeple majority by yellow. Look how they're nicely sandwiching this red guy in the middle. Okay, a tile is discarded and a Dorito tile is drawn by red. 14-point city being completed. They're absolutely or completely equal on the scoreboard, but red has the overall advantage due to his 6-point field over here. So red has... Wait, it's really close. It's really, really close. And... well, yellow has an excellent move. Yellow can go over here and try and win this farm. Because there are still the crossroad tiles that would go over here and complete the connection. And there might even be another road tile. I'm not fully aware of the remaining tiles. I know that one of them is a Dorito. One of them is a crossroad tile. One of them is the other crossroad tiles with a city. But what is the fourth one? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. It's some sort of big tile, no? Yeah, it's just a big tile. One of the cows. So this means that if you go over here, then it's a 50-50 chance. First of all, these are 2 immediate points. Exactly. He might even actually go for the monastery instead. But yeah, 2 points make perfect sense. And it's a 50-50 chance of completing this farm invasion. And there's just nothing that easttung can do other than trying to block that square. Okay, so actually, I think it's worth going here. I mean, I don't know exactly, like we need to count the points to be extra sure. Also, Koki is down to his last 5 seconds. If he spends 5 more seconds, well, I mean, his, of course, time back is going to be replenished. Red does not find the move. Red could have increased his winning chances by going over here. If your opponent does not draw the invasion tile immediately, you can actually later go over here and block that square. I mean, he does draw the invasion tile immediately, and he will be winning this game. And there is nothing that easttung can do about this. Yeah, also, like, this move. What was the purpose of this move? Why can't you just take 1 point for the city, man? Maybe nervousness. This is the only way how I can explain this. Just not enough time to solve the endgame. There were a variety of options available, and to rub it in, also 4 extra points for yellow. And a big field belongs to yellow. It's actually not going to be that big of a score difference. Or maybe I'm wrong. No, it's going to be a substantial score difference. A 15-point farm for red and a 24-point farm for yellow, and actually only 10 points. So this means that this field invasion was absolutely decisive. So the coin flip for this tile is what won the game. But now that I think about this, it's something that red maybe could have anticipated, and possibly a way for red, when dropping this tile, it was actually better to rotate it in a different way. Maybe with the road tile facing to the left, simply to allow fewer re-invasion options. Because after this tile over here, this combo was not the only combo possible. It was also possible that yellow were to draw this tile, and then the other crossroads like this. But it's something that's really difficult to see in advance. Like, you really have to know all possible tiles remaining. Yeah, and also if there was a straight line remaining, so actually this move seemed to have been... Yeah, you know what? Here was the chance. Or was there? Yeah, I think now I see it. So what red could have done, place this tile over here, like this, and then with this straight line, they could have just gone over here and tried to put some pressure against this square, simply not allowing an easy invasion. So that's one option. This would not have actually worked. I think just yellow wins every time with this. But even though easttung doesn't manage to take a game off of the Japanese master today, they came pretty close. I mean, they came within a 50% shot of that, so that's some sort of an accomplishment, and they still have some difficult matches ahead of them. But we will wish them luck, and we will congratulate all our Japanese fans. Yeah, but just to talk about this game anymore, I mean, of course, like, Koki played really, really well with these fields over here, just finding that 50-50 win. And also this move, I initially didn't see the purpose of it, but the idea here, of course, as it was pointed out in the chat, that it's actually prevented backdoor scenarios of red completing his city, so in that sense it made sense. But yeah, also I noticed that red actually, again, could have given himself more of a shot to win by just going over here. That would not have really increased his win probability, but that would have made it harder for yellow to find the right defense. But the idea is like if we go over here as red, and if our opponent draws a Dorito tile, then they can't block. Well, they can't defend themselves properly. Or maybe they do. Maybe they just accidentally block themselves. Maybe they miscounted the tiles, and maybe they think that there's a curve or something. So just going over here instead of simply discarding the tile seemed to be the more preferable option. But both players short on time. Very back and forth game, starting with quite the advantage from yellow, then with this move over here, which I'm still shocked about. It gave some massive chances to red. Red managed to invade the main field very efficiently through his own city, but just ended up not being enough, as this sneaky idea of reinvasion was found by the Japanese player. Okay, so Sunny's suggesting some alternatives. So using the road monastery to get 3 points and defend the top city like this, yeah. That was an option. Ah, and then if yellow uses the curve to defend the invasion spot like this, so earlier on, imagine if this tile is not here, then if yellow goes here, then we can't drop a farmer here anymore. But then we have a straight line available to us, and then we can just go over here and try to connect the two fields of our opponent. Yeah, the only reason that I don't think it works is because in order for us to connect the two fields of our opponent, we would need to spend very valuable tiles, which gives us more points anyway. So we would need to draw either the road monastery, which scores us points in a variety of places, or both crossroads, which needs to score us points. There was one straight line, of course, but one straight line in and of itself is not enough. But yeah, but given how close this game was, I wonder that, wait, maybe we can even win without this invasion. Is that crazy? I don't think we can, but certainly we know now that defending the square would have sort of kind of worked, but not really. But not really. You know, the difficult part about this position was the fact that Koki was the starting player. Because from easttung's perspective, at some point, I guess you sort of have to drop a farmer here in the middle. And then you're thinking of invading one field or maybe the other one. There were actually some scenarios where red drops a farmer here instead, and then maybe tries to invade this. Because yellow is the last to move, he can simply have himself a bit of a Mexican standoff and decide if he wants to merge the field or not. So the idea is this: if red drops a farmer here and red doesn't connect, then we just keep the farms separate as yellow. But if red does connect, as he did, then we suddenly get a reinvasion. So it's very difficult to deal with this geometry with one farmer in between of two fields of your opponent if your opponent is the starting player, because the starting player gets to go last. If you get to go last, then it's a good position to be in. So yeah, this is just one of the many instances where the starting player advantage is significant just because those field decisions, when you're the last to act, they can make all the difference. Do you merge the fields? Do you keep them separate? You get to make that decision based on what your last tile is. Yeah. I was thinking that obviously the straight line we can use it for invasion, but here's the thing, Sunny. Like if they are tile runouts, where simply knowing your opponent's tile is not enough. So you might know because on your last move, of course, you know what your opponent's last tile is if you're counting correctly. But then you might find yourself in a situation where it's a lose-lose. If you connect to the field, then your opponent connects back. If you don't connect the field, then your opponent does not connect. So that's the kind of thing that I'm talking about. I mean, of course, there are some scenarios if our opponent is not careful enough. Maybe their last tile is something like a Dorito or a cow tile. And then in that case, we can actually safely connect. Yeah, that could work. But then if that were to be the case, then we actually would have won the game anyway in the actual situation. So yeah, can't blame Red for making this move. We now know that the other orientation was more precise. Probably in the game I would have played this instead, but it's very tricky to make those decisions with one meeple. Because imagine if Red goes over here and his next tile is Dorito, then just he looks like a genius. And also, by the way, I think Red's not the next, but the tile after was a Dorito, so it did end up being quite an efficient arrangement. Alrighty, let's update the score to reflect that Koki won. Yeah, Wise Maze is saying it's all a lot of it has to do with being a meeple short, due to a really unnecessary road invasion. Yeah, so what this road invasion did, it's actually there's so many effects. It sacrificed 2 points, it sacrificed a meeple, then it's made sure that Red's field stayed closed because actually Red could have developed himself the farm in such a way that allows city caps in it. So yeah, of course, that was also another issue. Yeah, sometimes with these roads, there's sometimes a question like, how do you know when to attack a city or not? How do you know when to attack a road is this? And I think a lot of that is psychological. So Red was thinking, I'm gonna steal a nice long road from my opponent. Look how nice it is. It looks very nice and long. But also something that we need to remember that because each road tile scores only 1 point, visually, long roads are very appealing. But when it comes to the actual scoreboard, it is not that impactful. It's like, if you just think about 8 points, well, 8 points is the same as like a small city like this. That's 8 points. So these 8 points are the same as this long road which goes just through half the map. So that's one way to think about this. Just always think about the points. Second, when you're invading a feature, don't think that you're making an invading move, because there's always this pleasant thing that you're taking away something from your opponent, that there's this like violent element into it, like the conquest element. I think this really messes up with a lot of Carcassonne players' heads. Whereas in reality, when you're invading or we're making any move, this is it. Like, I'm trying to score this many points. So this is what you should ask yourself. Do I want to risk meeple to score this many points? And by this many points is 8. You might answer yes, you might answer no. But if you forget simply that your move is an invasion move, and you take that out of the equation, then you can just assess more objectively whether you need to make that move or not. The same goes for the other side as well. Like, sometimes if you're on the defending side, I've seen that players try to fight really hard against invasions, like if their opponent is trying to steal a road from them. But then they realize if your opponent steals your road, they just get this many points on the scoreboard, and this many might be not that many. And in many situations, you can just let them do that. Because it's not like in real life where, you know, if somebody steals something from you or takes away from something from you, like, you lose not only that thing but also maybe your pride or something like this. No, in Carcassonne you just lose the points, and in many situations you can afford to lose the points. So yeah, so this is possibly something to think about for the future. But still, Reds managed to fight back overall really nicely, building themselves a city over here, equalizing the city of this, taking advantage of, temporary... Maybe these are nerves or something, but the temporary nervousness of the Japanese master, I'm going to say, with this self-blocking move. And just coming a little bit short, a coin flip short. So I'm pretty sure they're going to be, at the very least, a trouble to their next opponents. And now we are about to wrap up. So first of all, I want to just look at the tournament position here. All the Group C matches have concluded, so Koki Yamaguchi shares the lead with yours truly as the two players who have won 2-0. StatMat is in third place, who won against HT Bry 2-1, and in shared fifth place at the moment is easttung and Meister 35 of Colombia. There are no further tiebreakers, at least for now, other than the matches won and the number of games won. That's the situation in Group C, and the day one has in fact been concluded, so all the results will be here once the week is fully concluded, but before that happens, we have one, and we have one more match. Oh, also we can see that Hydra Baby of Taiwan defeated Get 71-79 of France earlier this morning, or actually I'm gonna call it in the middle of the night. And so we have one more match only, which I'm so excited about that I am bringing a special guest in today. That's in 5.5 hours. Make sure to be there. If you feel that you could forget, make sure to subscribe to this channel and click the bell notification icon, then you don't forget. Make sure to meeple the like button for the algorithm as well. It is important. And now, thank you all so much for watching, and I'm gonna see you soon.